Welcome everyone to Legends of Professional Wrestling. This week we got a legend in his own right here from Revere. You all know this guy. You've seen him before. He beat me in arm wrestling for the New England Championship match, but we got another rematch today on this show for the Tag Team Championship. Morris is going to go for the tag belts, once worn by this team right here, Demolition, as well as many, many more. We're going to show you a bunch of pictures on all the tag teams of the old WWF. But right now, let me introduce to you Morris, the man with the reflection of perfection, coming on down in your direction. Morris, welcome to the show. I know you're a T5, as you say, in the military.
Yep, I was a T5 equivalent to a corporal.
And you were head of the intelligence, I believe?
No, I wasn't head. I worked with the intelligence.
You were, but you were running the whole thing, so you're the head.
No, I wish I was, but I wasn't. I was only 17 at the time.
Well, we got a great array of talk that we can talk about because I've been doing my homework on World War I, World War II, and I didn't find it so interesting watching it because I'm not really into the military and what the Nazis did and all that bad stuff they did to the Jewish people and
the gypsies, the homosexuals, all the others.
Hey, let's not go too far. This is a family-oriented show here so far. But I want to say one thing. I'm going to have to take off my glasses because I got my notes here and I can't see them with my glasses. Now, World War I, the top 4 or 5 guys that were running the situation. Let me see if I get it right. The first one was McCarthy. He was in the trenches. Then you got Patton. He was in the head with those tanks, blowing those people up and really getting down. Then you had Churchill, which nobody believed. We're going to get to him later on.
He was a naval attaché.
And then we got that other guy, the mean man from the Soviet Union. I believe his name was Stalin.
Yep.
And then, of course, I'm missing one. Of course, the president, Roosevelt at the time, which
right.
He had some bad news for him where he had polio. He was in the wheelchair.
And the man with the mustache.
And the man with the mustache.
Hitler.
Hitler.
Yep.
That's the guy we want. That's the guy we want to talk about. Let's start off with Hitler. Okay? Tell us a little bit about some of the bad things Hitler done to some of these people here in Germany and what he turned Germany into, and he wanted it to be the ultimate race. He wanted, and the steroids too. The steroids were involved. They never talk about the steroids, but they were feeding those guys steroids, I believe. Right, Morris?
You're absolutely right. And if I may say so, Hitler started off by euthanizing people that were disabled, that had autism. In other words, he didn't want to take care of the elderly or the sick. So he would euthanize them, put them to sleep. He also wanted to make what he called a super Aryan race. Blonde, blue-eyed Germans. But if you take a look at what his group consisted of, it consisted of Hermann Goering, who was a big, fat drug addict.
What kind of drugs did he take?
I wasn't there at the time, but
Was he smoking any hydro?
That I don't know.
Oh, that stuff they got in the street now, what do they call that? I don't know, lean, the hoppers, the happers,
that I don't know.
They were doing the codeine and the grape soda, and they lean. They call it lean. Oh,
I think he was under drugs all the time.
Well, I'm sure that Hitler could get his hand on anything, and that's probably...
Hitler himself had to take drugs, too.
He had to be standing up there like this all the time. Heil Hitler!
With Dr. Modell, who was his doctor that subscribed medication for him.
Okay.
So that was it. Joseph Goebbels, the propaganda minister, had a cleft foot, wasn't of what you would call an Aryan, according to Hitler. Heinrich Himmler, who was nothing but a chicken farmer. But the reason they all got in with him is because during the 1923 push that they had in Munich, they were all part of his group, Rocky. So I thought you'd like a little knowledge of that.
Well, I got to tell you, I've been watching some of the things. I really, into the military and stuff like that. Because I was the baby boy of Ann Raymond. I was the only boy, so I never got to go to Vietnam, and all that bad stuff never really hit me. But you know something? I really respect what you do here in Revere, because many of these people don't have any idea who McCarthy was. They don't even know who Roosevelt was, if you ask half these kids in high school. Do they have history in school anymore?
Yes, they do. They still teach it, but they don't teach much about the war nowadays because you have the Vietnam veteran, the Korean, the Gulf Wars 1 and 2, and the Iraqi War and the Afghan War up to date. You know, the Second World War was the First World War was supposed to be the war to end all wars. And that ended in 1918, and 21 years later in 1939, we had another war, the Second World War. That was supposed to end all wars. Then we had the Korean War. That was supposed to put an end to wars. Then we had Vietnam that lasted 10 years. And then we have all these other, Grenada we had, Panama we had, and the Afghan and the Iraqi.
You know what I would like to see in this day and age? I'd like to see Mr. Hitler go against the Afghanistans, all these terrorists, and see how his knowledge would be about come in and wipe you out, because Hitler, he was like a Pac-Man. He wanted to eat everything up. He was going all around everywhere. I mean, when he first went to jail for trying to take over the government,
Right.
having all those meetings in the beer cellars,
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff was
And
going
Munich,
on.
beer hall Munich.
Yeah,
too.
and then basically what happened was Churchill was actually right about him all the time, and all the people thought that Churchill was just running his mouth off and running his power off, till they found out when they came, to Britain and try to take over Britain. But I tell you, that guy Churchill, he did a good thing, because he had, 600 bombers going after like
Right,
6,000 or
Royal Air
5,000
Force,
planes.
yep.
I mean, all those planes, and they sent them back to their country with their tail between their legs, and they only had 600 planes, correct?
Exactly. I would like to say one thing about Churchill, because I had a lot of heroes during the war that I liked. But to me, Churchill was the greatest of the great, because he was the one that said, never was so much owned by so many to so few. And that's what he meant when he said so few, about the planes, the people there. So I thought you'd like a little tidbit on that, Rocky.
Yeah, I would. And basically, we know that you're Morris Morris, and everyone knows I'm Rocky Raymond. And we got the graphics of your name coming up, and we want to really say again that you've done a great deal here in Revere, and we got to give it to this station, because let me tell you, I'm not bragging or anything, but I've been on channels in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Real TV, Channel 12, WLVI TV. I don't know if you remember that.
Yep.
Channel 56, and all those stations, and we got people at this station that are very, 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 very lucrative on knowing what they're doing compared to all these local cable stations, and they've come a long way. I just want to mention it because I've been coming here for quite some time. We were upstairs, we were downstairs, he was on Broadway, he had a couple of things going here or there, but what it is that they've done an enormous amount of work here in trying to make this station, Channel 8, used to be known as the Grade 8, and you guys like Rick Promise that put their heart and soul into it and do all the voicing of the council meetings and all the things. But with you and what you do for the veterans and try to keep them out in the open, and the gentleman that you mentioned, and basically Nick.
Nick Brewer, the commissioner.
He's the commissioner. He does a great job also, and people don't realize all the work that is done for the veterans. And you see all the scandals going on TV now with they're not giving them the right appointments for their their medical updates and all this stuff, and it's all starting to come out in the wash. And I hope that some of these veterans that are out there in the trenches and fighting, I don't know how many, that are alive that were actually in World War I and World War II, that are alive, that put their heart and soul into it.
World War I, there are no more alive.
Yeah.
World War II is losing over 1,000 a day. Over
Right.
1,000 a day.
That's too bad.
Would be the youngest of World War II, or one of the youngest, because I tried to get in, as you know, at 16.
Right.
But you had to be 17.
Exactly. And
When
you
I-
were a T5, I believe, right?
Yep, that's a technician for grade. I was with the military intelligence as an interpreter, because my father came from Germany. And I worked in interrogating prisoners, German prisoners, and displaced persons, which they call DP camps. But we'll get into that later, Rocky.
And one of the things that I was watching on the biography station, or history station.
Yep.
And it really enlightened me to a lot of things, and some of the things that these guys went through, like that mustard gas.
That was in World War I.
That was crucial. World War I. I mean, these guys were getting blisters on their hands. They couldn't talk. It was, attacking their, their nervous system, and they couldn't think right. They couldn't, and they would just sit there and just die.
That's why they had
It
to,
was awful.
right, and also in World War I, it was more trench warfare, because they didn't have the modern equipment that we have today. So then between the two trenches, let's say the Allied trench, and in World War I, they weren't called the Axis powers like they were in World War II. They were called the Central powers, and it was made up of Germany, Austria, and the Ottoman Empire. Those were the three Central powers that would have been called Axis today.
Now, Mr. Adolf Hitler, as we know
I
him.
wish you wouldn't call him Mister, but go ahead.
Well, you know,
I got another name for him.
I understand we all do at this point, but the book, The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. Are you familiar with that book?
Yes, it was written,
Have
I
you
believe,
read it?
by William Shirer.
Did you read it?
Yes, I did. So
And what this guy had done to Germany, I mean, coming from my friend Randy Abel that you interviewed, he was correct because we were talking about it on the way here. And he said he was a painter. And I said, no, he was a journalist. But Mr. Abel was right, so I guess he still has some sense left in him.
he was absolutely right. But let me explain something to you which I could never understand. My father was born and raised in Reinickendorf section of Germany. He fought in the First World War for Germany, but he was not considered a citizen when Hitler came into power because he took away the citizenship. Hitler, who was not born in Germany but was born in Austria in a town called Braunau am Inn,
Right.
was a German citizen. How would you explain that if you were in my shoes?
I can't explain a lot of things that this guy did, but I tell you, he went in. That was where he went. He went to the weakest. He conquered the weakest first. So when he went into his own hometown there, and then Czechoslovakia, and then I guess it was Poland he moved into after that.
Yeah, can I just say
Sure.
a few things? We have, what's his name, Putin today, the Russian, the head of president of Russia, Putin. He did the same thing that Hitler did. He took over the Crimea. Hitler took over the Rhineland.
Right.
He wanted to go further into the Ukraine. I'm talking about Putin. But because the Europeans put an embargo on some of the stuff that he could not import, and they blockaded, not blockaded him, but they penalized him for it. If they had done the same thing with Hitler when he started with the Rhineland, there wouldn't have been a Second World War. But they let him get away with the Rhineland. Then he went to Czechoslovakia for the Sudetenland. They let him get away with Czechoslovakia. He took over Austria. They let him get away with Austria. Finally, he wanted to go after Poland. But Russia told him that if he went after Poland, Russia might get involved. So what happened was they signed a pact that Russia would get half of Poland and Hitler would get the other half. But Hitler had something else in his mind, to take the whole thing of Poland and to take the Soviet Union under a code name called Barbarossa.
And he was sneaky too, because he was, talking on one side, and then on the other, he was in these big factories, and they said they had factories as big as of schools with all these machines and making all these planes under the hat. And all the time he was saying, we're doing this and we're doing that. But all along, he was planning the big move. And when they went into that area where he first took over, which was, he thought it was his area,
The Rhineland.
The Rhinelands, and the particular gentleman that was it Chamberlain?
Naval Chamberlain, no, Naval Chamberlain came out during the part of Czechoslovakia because Hitler told him that he was going to attack Czechoslovakia. So Chamberlain made sure that the president, I believe his name was Benish, that Czechoslovakia would surrender without war to avoid no war. So he came back with a little piece of paper waving and called the peace in our time.
And that particular guy that was just signing papers because he was trying to avoid war, but he eventually stepped down from the pressure that Hitler was putting on him. And then
Churchill
took over, and he took over, and everyone thought that Churchill was just fibbing, he's this, he's that. But Churchill was right all along, wasn't he?
From the get-go, he said that little painter, or that little Fuhrer, is going to cause a lot of trouble, and he did. He was absolutely right.
Well, I tell you, they got a lot of history on the History Channel about this guy, and I know you don't like him. I don't like him. I don't think too many people like him. And in the end, he was, he created his own demise, I think, that basically there was no real finding his body. Is that true? They never found his body?
His body, when they came in 1945, April the 30th, is when he was committed suicide with his sweetheart, Ava Braun. He married her, by the way, and they burned his body. They burned it.
Oh, they did find it. They did
Right.
burn it. Well, that's the best thing for him, because what he did to the Jewish race.
He did
in
it to a lot of
Germany,
people, right?
He didn't care. He wanted everyone, if you weren't Jewish, if you had a business.
No, if you were an Aryan, the
Yeah.
Slavs, he was going to kill all the Slavs.
But also, he stopped all the business in Germany, because if you had a Jewish business, he shut you right down.
He boycotted you.
And also, him taking over, he just come on. It was like a wave. I mean, he came and he took over Italy. He took over everyone. And then what he did was the only one that he feared. He feared that
Soviet Union?
yeah, the Soviet Union, Stalin. He was
Right.
scared of him a little bit. But then again, he turned on him too in the end, didn't he?
Yeah, but the reason he turned on him because when Russia went to war with Finland.
How's my history, by the way? Is
So
it all
far,
right?
you're doing very good.
Well, you better tell Mr. Felberg at the Revere High School that he taught Rocky Raymond how to talk and how to walk and how to do all. And I know what you're going to do at the end of the show. You think you're going to give me a rematch for that belt?
If you want it, you
I'm
got
going to
it.
tell you something about what you've been doing, and you've been doing it all over Revere, and I'm tired of it. You're talking me down. You're telling everyone I'm too old. You're telling everyone that I've been doing bad things, and you're right, I've been doing bad things. I've been eating yodels. I've been eating that King's Donut in Saugus. I've been eating all the sugar because I'm going to get all the power because I want that rematch at the end of the show.
You'll
and
have
I
it,
want my
Rocky.
belt back, and I want it back today. And I'm going to tell you right now, if I don't get it back, you're going to have a sore back.
Okay, but Rocky, I got to tell you something else. You say you're too old. How would you feel like me when I went to an antique show Saturday night? Saturday night, I went to an antique show.
They had a picture of you up there?
No, 3 people bid on me
Oh, they bid on you. All right, well, that's good.
because of my age.
At least you got a bid.
How about you?
Me?
Yeah.
They don't bid on me no more.
But I'd like to get back to Germany. When I came in, I took my basic training, by the way, in Fort Dix, New Jersey, which is right outside of Trenton.
Okay.
I had my sergeant there. I finally found out his name. I was looking, was Sergeant Tomei.
Tomaine?
Tomei.
Tomei.
T-O-M-E-I.
Okay.
Then I went over to Bremerhaven, which was the port we landed. I traveled on a ship called the General Mir, M-U-I-R. So if anybody out there knows about that ship, maybe we were buddies on that ship.
Maybe we crossed in the night or something. You know, we crossed like you know, you could have been somewhere. I mean, you know.
And we landed in Bremerhaven, which is part of Bremen, was the next big town. And then I was shipped to Austria, Vienna, and one of the people heard me talking to one of the Germans on the street, one of the captains or commanding out there. And he came over to me and he thought he asked me if I was born in this country. I says, no, I was born in Brooklyn, New York, which is a far cry from German. And that's how I got involved to get into the intelligence. They told me to go to Berlin, and I went to Berlin. They signed me up over there, and that's where I was stationed. I was stationed in Frankfurt. Oh, talking about Frankfurt, I got to tell you something, Rocky. You talk about the mustard gas in World War I.
Oh, that was a bad one. That gas was unbelievable.
What the Germans did to kill the people in the concentration camps in the hundreds, because at the beginning it was too slow. Using a bullet, the soldiers would get sick to see someone shot. Everything. They had IG Farben, which was the IG Farben building, was the one that met the Cyclone B gas. So you had the mustard gas in World War I, and to kill troops, and then you had the Cyclone B gas in World War II to kill civilians. So you had gases in both wars. I thought you'd like a little tidbit of that.
Well, you got it all. I tell you, you got all the information on the veterans. You got all the information on World War I, World War II, and all the other wars. But I get back to this guy MacArthur. You know, he was a tough cookie.
Who's General MacArthur?
Oh yeah, and then
You mean Douglas MacArthur or McCarthy?
McCarthy, the one who was on the ground. He was
That was
with
MacArthur.
MacArthur. Okay.
Right.
All right. Excuse me.
No, that's okay. McCarthy, Joseph McCarthy was the one in the 40s, I believe, or early 50s, who had the trial out there making everybody in America, if you didn't agree with him, you were a communist.
Now, what about Japan? Huh? Japan wanted to get in on the action. They wanted to get a couple of, they wanted some power too, because once they saw this Hitler going around taking over, they wanted to get a little power too, and I know that they were a little shunned at the meeting there, and they were backing up with everybody, and then they were shunned. So then they got a hold of this guy, Tojo.
Yep.
And Tojo was
head
a
of the
very
military.
devious man, very devious. And he, just by looking at him, you could tell he meant business too. Can you tell us, enlighten us a little about Mr. Tojo?
Well, he was head of the army, the military army. Actually, he took orders. Well, he didn't take orders, he gave orders. Hirohito was the emperor, Tojo was head of the military, and Yamamoto was head of the naval. And I'm talking about Yamamoto, if I may, for a minute. He came to school, studied right here in Boston.
Right here in Beantown?
Right here
Can
in
you
Beantown,
imagine?
yep.
What year was that?
Oh, I guess it must have been the 20s or 30s, somewhere around there. No, yeah, somewhere around there. But he went to school in Boston. I'm not sure about
Maybe that's why there's so many Chinese restaurants in Boston. You got the Four Seasons, you got the Golden, the whatever over there, the Golden Goose, whatever they call it. And then
That I have
in
no
Revere,
idea
there's got to
about.
be about 5, 10, 15 of them. I mean, maybe that's why Chinese food got so popular. Because, you know, I buy my share of Chinese food.
But let me tell you what happened. In 1943, he was flying to Bougainville,
Bougainville.
which was during the Japanese in the Pacific, and he was intercepted by P-38s, which was our planes, the P-38. They intercepted him because they knew exactly where he was going to be, at what time he was going to be, so they timed the flights perfectly, and they shot him down, and they killed him.
Now let's talk a little bit about the colors red, white, and black. Which
That was the Nazi swastika.
which became the Nazi swastika that Hitler also made very popular. I mean, there was...
It was called the Hakenkreuz.
You couldn't turn your head these ways to see a flag or whatever.
I know that.
He come up with. I mean, he really put it down their throat. And then also, all these kids that were over 10 years old had to go to a military camp or some kind of
Hitler Youth.
Hitler Youth,
They called it the Hitler Jugend, but a Hitler
Hey,
Youth.
wow, I know my stuff, huh?
You're doing pretty good.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. That's what I like about you, you're Rocky, but you're very humble.
That's right. I'm the toast of the coast, and you know, basically,
You're a very humble person, Rocky. God bless
of
you.
all these things that here, but you talk to some of these kids that go to Revere High School, and you ask them who President Roosevelt was, and what he had to do with the war, when he had those disagreements with McCarthy.
That was
Over the military, because what had happened was they cut back on the military.
Oh, that's right. That was, by the way, excuse me, it was Truman that sacked MacArthur.
Okay.
Truman is the one that sacked
Okay,
him.
and what happened was they were backing off on all the military because they were trying to bring the country up, because we almost, you know, that big depression that they had brought everybody down.
That was in the 30s. I was born during the 29, 30.
No, they lost over $140 million in one day, I believe. I think.
Oh, that was the
might have been
stock market, yeah.
The stock market went way down.
1929 that was, by the way.
And basically, then everything fell like dominoes afterwards. Italy, Europe, all parts of Europe.
That's what, yep, Rocky, you're absolutely right. That's how Hitler got into power, because of the depression.
That's right. I was going to say that, because what happened was he was bringing everyone to their knees. He was shutting down all the businesses if you were if you were Jewish, and if you weren't German, you weren't nobody.
First of all, he would put up a sign, "Don't buy from Jews," number one, on the stores. Then he would have a town kick the Jews out. Now, he let them immigrate at the beginning. At the beginning, he let them immigrate and get out of the country. There was about 500 or 600,000. 200,000 remained. They wound up, most of them, in the concentration camps.
Right.
But he did let them immigrate, and like I said, he had them boycotted. Then in 1938, they had what they called the Kristallnacht, the night of the broken glass. That's why it's called the Kristallnacht, glass night,
Okay.
night of broken glass. They went around with a mob, and they burned the synagogues, they burned the stores, and they murdered a lot of the Jewish people. So that was in 1938, Rocky.
Now, when he took over, he burnt down one big area, he burnt down something that started it.
Oh, the Reichstag.
Right.
And, right, yep, you're right about that, but that was later on. That wasn't that night.
Yeah, okay.
He burned but he had his own people do that, and they blamed it on the communists.
Right.
That's when he went before the parliament and said that now he's going to disband the parliament and become dictator chief, and became the Fuhrer.
Now, the communists, I'm a little mixed, sort of, because I thought communists was
They're
following
both
Hitler.
one and the same. I mean, they just give them
That's it.
different
That's
titles.
what I thought. I mean, they mixed me up a little bit when they started talking about the communists and then the Nazis. And basically, that's sort of, I'm saying, well, isn't one of the
Let
same?
me tell you something. When I was interrogating prisoners, not prisoners, displaced persons, and they would tell me that the communists would call the Jews the capitalists, and the Nazis was called the Jews the communists. I mean, it was ridiculous. But they were both, the communists and the Nazis, ideology-wise, were both identical, both totalitarian states.
Well, I know that Hitler was a real nutcake, because when he invited everyone to Germany for the Olympic Games, and you know, he was all in his glory, and he was telling everyone, be nice to all these people that are coming. Who would want to go to Germany in that time, knowing all this was going on? I mean,
They didn't
these
know what
people
was
had
going
no
on.
fear.
First of all, he made sure that none of that, we spoke about, the broken glass, the Jews, the non-Jews, didn't show up at all. There
Right.
was nice signs. Everything was like
Sure.
placated. And not only that, when he set up the concentration camps, he had one concentration camp called Theresienstadt. He made that a concentration camp where the Red Cross would come in. They would see the prisoners there eating, playing the piano, playing cards,
Right.
hanging around. That was just a showcase.
Plus, he stopped all the newspapers.
Oh, yeah.
He stopped everything, and they only put in the papers what he wanted in the papers.
Not only that, but if you listen to a foreign broadcast, even before the war, you were in trouble. If you picked up the BBC or some of the foreign newses, you had to listen to Dr. Joseph Goebbels, the propaganda minister, who was in charge of propaganda.
Sure.
And Goebbels just say one thing that proved to be correct. If you tell a lie long enough, people will believe it. And they did.
Oh, I understand it. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about wrestling. And, we're trying to say, what does the World War and all these wars have to do with wrestling? Well, I'm going to tell you. You know why? Because I'm Rocky Raymond. And you listen to me when it comes to wrestling because I'm a historian. I got it all. I got all the footage. I got all the photos. I got it all, Daddy. And we're going to part of the program. We're going to talk about tag teams of professional wrestling, the old days of the WWF. And, we talk about Germany. You know a guy named Waldo von Erich?
Nope.
How about Fritz von Erich?
Nope.
How about Otto von Heller?
9.
How about some of these Russian guys that wore red hoods and they call themselves the Russians?
Keep going. I'm not
Okay,
getting
well, that's just what wrestling took out of it, out of the wars. And, like professional wrestling today, they go about some storylines or whatever. I don't know where they're at this point. But back in the day, the war and, all the stuff going on. So they had guys that wore German outfits and swastikas and all that stuff. They had, Otto von Heller. He was a bald guy he was with the sword thing and all that. But wrestling took a little from the war to make a little part. We're going to shoot up some pictures right now of some of the tag teams of the old WWF. Right now, we shoot up the first picture there, and we have some of the great pictures of these guys right here. Was Baron Mikel Cicluna with their manager King Curtis Iaukea, and these guys were tag team champions. And basically, with the wrestling, these are not in any order, but these guys have won the belts at one point in time, or from the period of time. But the guy King
What year
Curtis,
was that approximate, Rock?
Oh, that was probably around 1978, 79 maybe, with Lou Albano and Baron Mikel Cicluna. And the next guy, we got a lot of tag teams. We're just going to shoot right through them. This guy right here was Blackjack Mulligan, and he was with the Grand Wizard. And if you can see on his leg on the right side, there's a big giant scar coming down the side of his leg.
Like, it looks white.
Yeah, and basically he was cut up in Boston Gardens when he wrestled a guy named Pedro Morales. He was coming down the aisle, and he got cut walking up the aisle. And later on, he became tag teamed with another guy called Blackjack Lanza, and he was called the Blackjacks. And the next one, basically, that's Bruno Sammartino when he
Oh,
won
yes,
that-
him I remember.
Now, Bruno Sammartino, we can talk a little bit about Bruno because Bruno's family and his mother, they got pushed to the mountains in Italy when the Germans came in. They all ran up to the mountains to stay safe from them taking over Italy. So Bruno can relate to the war with the Germans coming in, and his mother used to go down the mountain to get the food or whatever and bring it back up the mountain. So Bruno was one of the guys that can really relate to the war in Italy because it affected his family immensely.
Is he still alive, Bruno?
Bruno he's definitely alive. He was just put in the Hall of Fame last year.
How old would
And,
it be now?
Bruno would be about, I'm going to say he was
80?
71. He's going to be close to it, pretty close to 80, I would think. And these pictures here, Bruno here, was when he was in the bodybuilding contest. And maybe a lot of people think he was just a wrestler, but he did some bodybuilding shots. And there's another shot of Bruno with
Yep.
Franco Colombo. I don't know if they got that. And there's Bruno Sammartino on Channel 56 in Boston with that ring announcer, Buddy Wagner, and his manager, the Golden Boy, Arnold Skaaland. But Bruno was one of the many people that were affected by the Germans, and he had to go up to that mountain, and he stayed safe up there till the war was over, and his mother used to go down the mountain, bring them food and bring them back up. And at that particular time, Bruno got very, very sick. He got, sick in the mountains, and what they did was they put leeches all over him. to get the poison out,
Wow,
because
right.
the leeches would suck the poison out of their body. But yeah, he had a pretty hard time with it, and then he came to this country and he became the legend that he is. Another legend, Bruno Sammartino. Here's a tag team picture with Pedro Morales. He was world champion at that time with Bruno. This was taken in Madison Square Garden. And basically what happened with this tag team, it broke up on TV because of two Japanese wrestlers by the name of Professor Tanaka and Mr. Fuji. And what they did was they had a tag team match on TV, and the Japanese team threw salt in the eyes of Bruno and Pedro. And then what happened was they were swinging on in the middle of the ring, and what happened was they ended up hitting each other, and that set up the big World Championship match at Shea Stadium with Pedro Morales and Bruno Sammartino, which was a great match. I don't even know if it was ever on film, but I know a friend of mine that filmed it on 8mm. I saw a little bit of it, but it was from so far away they looked like little ants in the ring. And moving on now to the next one, we got Chief Jay Strongbow, and he's sitting on the backside. I know you know that guy's name, Haystack Calhoun, 640 pounds. You know, good old Haystack, he was on a plane going to Japan, and, he filled up and filled up and filled up, and, he was on a long flight to Japan, so he ate a lot of food. And then what happened was he had to go to the restroom, but you couldn't figure he'd get into an airplane restroom, so they had to walk him to the back of the plane, Morris, and guess what they did with him?
I have no idea.
They made him stand inside of a mail bag and do his business.
Did you say he weighs 650?
640 pounds.
That means his baby picture alone must have weighed 20 pounds.
Well, he was from Morgantown, Arkansas, and he ate 2 dozen eggs, a loaf of bread, gallon of orange juice, a couple of pounds of home fries, a couple of pounds of bacon, and before you know it, you got to go to the men's room.
Okay.
All right, let's get moving on to the next one. Rene Goulet and Kyle Gotch. Now, Rene Goulet and Kyle Gotch were a very scientific tag team. Kyle Gotch was very, very, very popular in Japan because he was known in the day as being a shooter. And when he was a shooter in professional wrestling, that means he really tied into knots like a pretzel. And they were tag team champions for a while. They were one of the first tag team champions, Rene Goulet and Kyle Gotch. There's another great picture on Channel 56. I believe that was either Hamburg, PA, or Allentown TV. And next one, we got Tony Garea and Dean Ho, the Happy Hawaiian they used to call Dean Ho. He was tag team champions with Tony Garea. Tony Garea was tag teamed with a lot of people.
Dean Ho? Any relation to Don Ho?
No, no, he never had much singing, but I tell you, he could show a good knife edge. And they were in good shape back in these days. And Tony Garea was tag teamed with Haystack Calhoun. He was tag teamed with Chief Jay Strongbow. And he had a couple of tag teams. But as, these are all going back to the real days of professional wrestling. This wasn't entertainment. You had to get in the ring, and if it said an hour, you'd wrestle for an hour. And that's the way it went. And next one, we got Dominic DeNucci and Irish Pat Barrett. They were tag team champions. As you can see, those tag team belts.
Yep.
And speaking of belts, I want my belt back.
You got to earn it, Rocky.
I want my belt back, and I want it back today. And if I don't leave here with a belt, I'm going to take a camera. I'm going to take some kind of expensive material that we got here. And what's our next tag team we got up here?
You got to earn your belt, Rocky.
Okay, this is the program from Fenway Park. And this match was Killer Kowalski, which I know you know.
Right.
Against the living legend Bruno Sammartino on a Sicilian
Who won that
stretcher
fight?
match.
Who won
I
that
believe
one?
Bruno, there's the picture right there. Bruno hit him with the chair, Fenway Park, knocked him out, and put him on the stretcher. That's a world famous picture. Who's got it? Rocky Raymond. There you go. I know it. All right, moving right along. We got our next shot. That was the shot of Bruno Sammartino when he was at that bodybuilding contest with Franco. That bodybuilder, you heard of him before, Franco. Little Franco Colombo. And our next shot is Haystack Calhoun and Chief Jay Strongbow. And Big Haystack Calhoun, you wouldn't want him coming to your house for open dinner, because I tell you, he eat that whole refrigerator out.
Who, the Chief?
Oh, no. Well, Calhoun, Strongbow had a good appetite, too, I'm sure. He put a couple
What tribe was he from?
He was from the Comanches.
Oh.
He was a Comanche. I thought he was a Sicilian because he was half Italian and half Indian. So
yeah, I must have met him because take a look.
Yeah, I thought I saw him on he was on F Troop. You remember that
show,
F Troop?
Yep.
He was one of the Indians that were up there on F Troop.
Oh.
Oh yeah, he had a couple of big shows. And moving right along here, we got Tarzan Tyler and Luke Graham with the manager of all managers of all the tag teams, Captain Lou Albano. And these guys, they were a good tag team also. Like I said, these belts are varied from the time that they had them. And moving right along right here, we got Lou Albano with who? Rocky Raymond. That was at the Shriners building. You know, that's another good, group of people. The Shriners, they help out the kids with the burns and all that stuff. What a great organization that is.
That's the
And moving right along, Abe Ford, which was the promoter of that big show at.
Was he the Ford dealer?
No, he was he was the promoter of the Boston Garden back in the day, and he promoted those shows in Fenway Park, which were more like WrestleManias at the time that they have now. And going right along, and there's Rocky Raymond with Bruno Sammartino, and that's not a tag team, but I don't know how it got in there, but that's Rocky and Bruno. And then they got Demolition with Rocky at a show in North Andover. One half of the tag team Demolition. Righty, and there's Rocky Raymond with the local Yokos, Frank and Joe Gullah, which was a tag team. And they traveled mostly in New England, and Frank did come on a couple of tours with me with the WWF. And there's young Rocky with his. See, you were just pointing to your hair. And I waved mine goodbye a long time ago because I used to do the Max for Men, that hair dryer.
Oh.
That did it. I mean, there's young Rocky Raymond, and that was taken at Revere High School. And Rocky Raymond was in pretty good shape back in the day where he could wear short tights. And these guys, the Bushwhackers, whoa, Luke and Butch. The Bushwhackers, they were really known as the Sheepherders back in their very, very mean days. They were more like the Hitler of professional wrestling. They were very, 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 very dangerous. Very dangerous. And we got my old picture with Killer Kowalski and Rocky Raymond as the executioners.
Which one are you, the left?
I'm the short guy, of course. And basically, it looks like he was at least a head over me. He was a big guy. He had to be about 6'7" anyways, I'd have to say, because I was, 6'1" anyways, and he had to be about 6'7". But he was a big dude, and he traveled throughout the wrestling world in the tag team field. And that's it for the tag teams, I guess.
Can I interject something, Rocky?
Sure.
With you in the wrestling, when I was a kid, and I wasn't into wrestling, but I was into boxing. And we had 2 fights that I remember. Joe Louis and Max Schmeling.
I got that. I got that on 8mm.
Did you?
I have it on 8mm. Yes, I do.
Big one from Madison Square Garden, January 18th, 1971. The living legend, Bruno Sammartino, against the Russian Bear, Ivan Koloff. This is the great classic. This is the greatest match of all time, ever. It wasn't WrestleMania back in the day. It was 1971. Koloff with a side headlock now. Shoulder tackle into Sammartino. Drop down by Sammartino. Big back body drop. And a lateral press by Sammartino. Koloff kicks out now, and Sammartino gets scooped up by the Russian Bear. Kick out by Sammartino. Sammartino with a big arm drag on Koloff. A second arm drag by the living legend. Head scissors by Koloff and a kick out by Sammartino. Leg dive by Sammartino, kick out by Koloff into a monkey flip now. Sammartino reeling. Unbelievable action. This is the greatest match of all time. No WrestleMania. No one can put the match together like Sammartino and Koloff. The big arm bar by the living legend, Ivan Koloff, 275 pounds. Look at the size of this Russian Bear. And Bruno Sammartino, 265 pounds himself, in control of the match. With an arm bar on the Russian Bear, Ivan Koloff, managed by Captain Lou Albano, as the Russian Bear goes behind Sammartino. And our referee looks on very closely for this Worldwide Wrestling Federation Championship match, January 18th, 1971. Can you believe it? A test of strength back and forth. The Russian Bear, Sammartino, Koloff in control right now, as he's got the arms of Sammartino behind him now, and Koloff controlling the match. Bruno Sammartino, the living legend, Loved by all the fans here in New York. They're going back and forth now. Ivan Koloff, Bruno Sammartino, in one of the greatest matches of all time. Koloff now putting pressure down on Sammartino. Sammartino trying to turn it around on the big Russian bear. And Sammartino inching his way around, trying to get behind the big Russian. And Sammartino turns it around. And the Russian bear now going for the ropes now. And the referee will break it up. Sammartino, Ivan Koloff. Put some heavy boots down into the chest of Sammartino. As he rams him into that corner buckle, Sammartino down. The Russian bear, brutal. And he's got Sammartino now by the hair on his head. Big boot to the back of the head of Sammartino. Ivan Koloff, the Russian bear, crashing down with a smashing forearm. And a third one now. Bruno Sammartino in the corner. And this 310-pound Russian bear slamming down with some heavy blows on the living legend. Koloff. Sammartino in the corner. Koloff lays a big boot now into the midsection. And a second one now. Sammartino looking to be weakened by the Russian bear, Ivan Koloff. Koloff hairing him up. Can Sammartino take these heavy blows? He seems to be weakening in the middle of the ring, trying to get his composure. Sammartino, he's like a stocky linebacker. Here he comes with that big comeback. Big right hand as he whips him into the ropes. Now Koloff. Oh, Sammartino buries the boot. As the referee Nick Kroll, big dive again. Sammartino comes up with an armbar. Ivan Koloff with a heavy boot, trying to shake it off. It's Koloff putting the boots to Sammartino. Big whip into the corner. It's Koloff. The referee just went down. He got caught by Koloff. Koloff whipping that corner buckle now. Sammartino running in. He ran into that brick wall. The big knee of Koloff. Koloff now with a big scoop slam. Oh! He bounced off that mat. Koloff going up to that top rope now. He's up against the top. Oh, down with that big Russian leg drop across Sammartino. No! Oh, you can hear a pin drop. First time ever. We got a new champion. Sammartino pinned in New York City. I can't believe my eyes. The crowd, you can hear a pin drop. Koloff beat the Abruzzi Strongman. The new champion, Ivan Koloff. They better get him out of the building. They're gonna riot. They're gonna riot. Get him out of here, Koloff. Koloff being ushered back. Sammartino in mid-ring. First time ever. Oh, I can't believe the heat. 101 degrees. Revere TV, strongest TV ever anywhere in New England. Oh yeah, it's Empire Pro Wrestling coming at you from Bangor, Maine, all the way down to FLA, Florida. If it ain't New York City, it's Philadelphia. If you don't see EPW New Jersey, guess what? It'll be down in Vegas. It's all over. It's all over. Now don't forget to watch it each and every week on all your stations. Revere TV, that's right. Watch it. That's right. Wednesday nights, keep it tight from 8 to 9, 9 to 10. Do it all over again on Saturday afternoon from 12 to 1 and have some fun with who? The real Boston Bad Boy, the only Boston Bad Boy. Right here with my buddy, the Fish. Oh, don't kiss a fish unless you've been in the Sopranos.
Right, and did you know that Schmeling, who fought with Germany during the Second World War, and he landed in Cyprus, him and Joe Louis became the best of friends after the war was over. And Joe Louis had a problem with the Internal Revenue Service for not paying taxes. And when he died, they wanted to bury him. He wanted to be buried in Arlington Cemetery, but they said no because of that discrepancy with the IRS. But President Ronald Reagan overruled him later on, and they did put him there where he deserved to be.
Well, I know that, didn't he beat him the first match?
Schmeling beat Joe Louis in the
Right,
first match.
right.
Then Louis knocked him out in the first round in the second match.
Imagine that.
Yep. And of course, another one I would like to say, who was a great hero of mine, besides Joe Louis, was a runner, Jesse Owens, from the 1936 Olympics.
Right.
Because Hitler thought of everybody else but the Aryans as superior and everybody else as inferior. And Jesse Owens, who was an African American or an American of African descent, won the Olympic gold medal.
And he stuck it right where the wild goose goes for Hitler too. The Chasoli, they gave him the prosciutta.
By the
And let
way,
me tell you something. That was the greatest thing that could have happened in front of all those millions and millions of people. He was standing up there, and he took the Olympics that year. He had over 200 medals, and America came in second. But he still put him down, and he put him down in front of his race that he thought was so great, with all the steroids they were feeding him.
oh, by the way, I did speak to a couple of Russians because they were. I worked for Amicus, Office of Military Government, U.S., and of course the Russians would come in, the French, the British. One Russian who fought in the Battle of Stalingrad, I got to tell you, he told me the temperature got down to 40 below zero. They had clothing. They had the nice. He gave me one of those Russian fire hats that you put on with the ears muffs on there. But he told me that at Stalingrad, the Russians went out to the Germans with a white flag, and they asked General von Paulus there, who was in charge of the German Sixth Army, if he would surrender. This was in December, Rocky. Paulus told him no. He's not surrendering because Hitler told them to stand fast and hold their ground. So Hitler made him a field marshal because he said no field marshal ever surrendered. Well, Paulus was more of a humane person. He decided that he was going to get his troops wiped out if he didn't do something, and he did surrender. And they surrendered in January 1943. So I thought I'd give you a little history on that.
Well, you got a lot of history, and I got a lot of history between the two of us. But we should be able to write half a book.
No, that we cut. Oh, by the way, during World War II, people don't know that over 450,000 plus American troops got killed during that Second
Right.
World War.
Right, and in the First World War, there was over 35 million.
That's a total war.
30, total of 37
War.
million?
This is just America. But for
Okay.
the war in World War II, over 50 million plus got killed.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, between the 50 million here and the 37 million here, that's a lot of people.
Well, with Mussolini thought he was going to get in with Hitler, and Hitler showed him that he was no friend of his either, because Hitler turned on everybody. And I think in the end, he turned on himself too.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Not only that, he committed suicide.
Right.
He gave his wife, Ava Braun, a cyanide pill. He killed her. But the saddest part about this was the Allies. See, Goebbels gave so much BS on his propaganda that it ate him up alive at the end, because his wife, Magda Goebbels, had her 6 children poisoned with cyanide tablets. Has 6 kids. The Allies never would have bothered them. They would have probably tried Goebbels as a war criminal, but they never would have bothered his wife, Magda. But that's the way they were. Himmler committed suicide. Goering committed suicide. Goebbels committed suicide. Hitler committed suicide. All the top brass committed suicide.
Yeah, well, they did the right thing, I guess. But we got a few minutes left, and I wanted to give you this little gift that I know you're, the unsolved mysteries of the World War II. And I picked this up for you because I like to give my guests a little something on the show all the time. I want to thank you for coming down here. But don't think you're going to get away from putting that title on the line today, because I brought another belt of mine, which was the Tag Team Championship belt. And I hope you enjoy that.
Rocky,
take
first
it
of all,
home
let me thank you.
Enjoy that, because that's some good
Was you
stuff,
in the
and let me know
military?
how good it is.
Was you in the-
No, I wasn't in the military.
But you are a veteran. By the way, we host a show, Channel 8 does.
Right, I was on it.
Exactly. And Channel 8 has done a tremendous amount for the city of Revere, not only for the veterans, but for the community of Revere. And you being part of it, you are a veteran of the community, Rocky.
All right, well, thank you very much.
And I want to salute you for your service.
And I want to salute you, but I'm going to tell you right now, I mean, whatever happens in this return match,
No grudge.
don't hold a grudge.
No.
Don't hold a grudge of it all. And basically, I don't want you to, think anything bad of me or whatever, but I must get my belt back. It's something that I haven't been able to eat. Yeah, right. I haven't been able to sleep.
You don't look like you're starving, I'll tell you that.
I had my hand looked at by Dr. Saharian.
Yep.
He said
Was that the one?
He said I had 2 or 3 torn cartilages in my wrist. You tore some cartilages. Now, it's been a while. I've been doing physical therapy. And if I see any antics from you on this arm wrestling match that we're going to have momentarily, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to have my lawyers get in touch with you, and I'm going to take whatever's left of your bank account.
No, you will. I'll tell you.
You better believe it, and you better believe
Rocky,
it right now.
let me tell you something else. You want to know about my bank account? If anybody broke into my house and dropped something, I would come out ahead.
Hey, I hear you.
Okay? Okay, Rocky, first of all, let me thank you for that nice gift that you gave me, Unsolved Mysteries of World War II.
Well, you're
That's good.
you're very, very welcome, and you're deserving of it. And like I said, I couldn't say any more things good about you, what you're doing for the veterans here
Right.
in Revere, because you know they need the help, because sometimes they
All
don't,
veterans do, Rocky.
they don't speak up with the voice. They may complain a lot, but they should really come to their veterans in their town and speak up if they have any problem, because every town has a veterans association or what you're doing, but I don't think anyone's doing as much for the veterans as you do in this town of Revere, and
a lot of people
with
do.
Bob Dunbar and Sergio doing the
And Nick Bull,
all
don't
your
forget
show,
Nick.
and Tricky Nick. I know he's always involved with it and all the great things that you do. But I got to tell you, without the brains behind the bronze, there's no bronze, right?
Okay, first
no,
of-
you ain't gonna grab
No,
my
no, no,
arm
I
right
wanna
there.
thank you for
All right,
having me
wait a
on the
minute,
show.
Wait. We're gonna go into it. All right. What you got in that pocket there?
Nothing.
You sure? All right, I'll shake your hand if one.
Thank you for having me
All
on
right,
the show.
All right, let's get. Cause see, I got my belt with me right
Right,
here.
now,
I got my belt. I got my.
I'm either
tag
going to
belt.
win that or you're going to
I
win
got
this
the tag
back.
belt. Where's your belt? Put it on there, but on the show him what this is for. This is for the. He's gonna put his belt up against my belt right here. We're gonna do it right here. He's gonna get that belt against my belt. And Morris, all right, let's get this thing going right here because I've been waiting weeks and weeks and weeks to do this
Okay.
again with you. And I know your situation.
You want to do it with my right
I
hand
know.
or left hand?
I'm gonna do it with any hand you got. I'll do it with your foot. How's that sound? I'll do my foot against your arm. You wanna do that?
Whatever you... No. Okay.
All right, come on. Grab my foot.
Okay.
Yeah, get out of here. I'm going to try to do this the right way here. All right. Fix my hair. All right. You getting ready?
Yeah.
You know, I've been waiting a long time for this, Morris.
Okay.
Okay? All right. You ready?
Yep.
All right. Where are we going?
You want to go
What do
right-handed?
you want to do? Right, left? What do you want to go? Which way you want to go?
Right here.
All right. Here we
Okay.
go. Wait, get in close now. I know you're baloney. I know the things you tried last time. All right.
Okay.
On 3. Ready?
One,
two,
two,
three.
three.
Oh. You're a strong guy here. You're a strong guy here, boy.
This is hurting me. It's going to hurt you more.
All right, I'm gonna get you now. Come on.
No, you're not.
Come on, loosen up there, buddy. Come on. I got you. I got you now. I got you now.
Oh, let me get out of here. Who's this guy?
Oops.
Oh,
Let me get out of here.
oh. Where'd you? Who was that?
Whew.
What are you?
Whew.
Morris, what'd you
Here.
do to me this
Here.
time, Morris?
Watch the chair over here.
Morris, what'd
Here,
you do to me?
give me a hand.
What'd you do to me this time?
I didn't.
Blinded.
That's okay.
Blinded. I gotta get a doctor. Cut the show. Cut it out. Cut the show. Cut it.